Joanne. I'm coming to you from Melbourne. And I have got quite a few friends I've invited who have put aside time on a Saturday afternoon, evening, wherever you are, to be with us today. So thank you very much for being here. I hope today you get lots and lots out of this session. This session is for you. And after this, we can all sit around, have a cup of tea and talk about how this is meaningful for you. So over back to Aljor and Manoj.
Right.
Thank you so much for your time.
I'm just looking at everybody here, and it just really blows me away that here we are. Manoj is in Ahmedabad in India, and I'm in Manila, and somebody's in Melbourne, somebody's Hong Kong, Cecilia's in Korea, and some people are somewhere in the Philippines. This is amazing. So, in a sense, COVID created something, right? So let me just tell you a little bit about who Manoj and I are. We are part of a loose, kind of like a loose collective, and we call ourselves Global Transformation Consulting. Or in the beginning, we also have something called Global Transformation Champions, and this is made up of a few of us who have been in the transformational business for a long time. There's a few people in India. We have somebody in UK, and I'm the one here, sort of in Southeast Asia, Australia, New Zealand. That's where I do my work. And our group sort of came together because we have a real commitment to transform people living successful and enriched lives, and at the same time, they're actually making a difference in the planet. And our Manoj and I have been in this work for over 20 years. He's been doing some management consulting work now for what, 25 years now, Manoj? Yeah. So, totally our group, we have over 125, 150 years of experience in transformational work. And as a matter of fact, Manoj and I were at some point senior program leaders of one of the world's leading companies that deliver transformational programs. And in the past 5 years, we've been creating and delivering programs that is based on methodologies and principles by an MIT lecturer who created something called Theory U. His name is Otto Scharmer, and he has written books called Leading from the Emerging Future, and then some derivatives of it. And then he also wrote something called Presencing. And we began creating programs and interventions based on his work because it really resonated with us. It resonated with our commitment that businesses not only do business for money, but businesses really show up in the world as contribution and then have an impact on society at large. And then also in the process, the actors or the leaders and the change makers are actually individually being transformed. And in the past 5 years, we have done 15 online cohorts participated by people from 8 or 9 countries, Manoj? Yeah, about 9 countries, and maybe about 30 different industries. They came from 30 different industries. And we've also, prior to the COVID thing, we've done in-house work with several companies and institutions in India, Thailand, and here in the Philippines. As a matter of fact, Manoj and I are currently doing a 2-year intervention with a company in Thailand. And just as recent as January, I led a program for the executive committee of a university here in the Philippines. And so today's event is, we invited you to today's event to have really a conversation with us. It's not so much a lecture, but it really is a conversation. It's a conversation about what's possible in business and what's possible in the impact of business in society. So I really invite you to participate and, engage in the conversation. And we think you'll get the most value out of that. And our intention is that you actually walk away here having seen something new or seeing a different perspective of whatever it is that you are dealing with. And then also, I just want to let you know up front that we do this kind of programs as a promotion for the course that we're actually having, which I'll tell you something about it later. It happens in November 7 and 8. And you know, near the end of this, I will say more a little bit about the details of that. And of course, I'm going to invite you to participate in it because I really want you to do it. So now Manoj will create with you what this program is, you know, some of the principles and distinctions, and let's get in a conversation and see if it can make a difference. Okay. So again, thank you, welcome, and Manoj, go for it.
Okay. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Very good. So as Aljor said, this is more like an interaction and not a presentation per se, right? So we would like to interact with you, and it would be great for those of you, if it is possible, to put your videos on, right? It would be great if you put them on. And we understand some of you may not be able to do it, and no complaints with that either, right? Okay. Now, as we start, some of you will realize I have an accent, right? No, sorry, you have an accent. I represent the highest English people speaking population on the planet. So if you think I have an accent, then you got a problem. Just kidding, okay? So yes, so I have an accent, and if I speak fast or if I say something which you want me to repeat, just feel free to request me to do so, right? So we will go back. Don't worry about that. And yeah, even those who are off video, it would be great if you interact. You can keep your videos off if you understand that, and you can interact with us. So let me start with this one simple question. What are the challenges you're facing in your business right now? Because this is about reimagining your business, right? So go for it. Yes, Mahesh.
Mahesh?
Well, the COVID situation is, we are wellness trainers, and we used to deliver face-to-face training in Hong Kong, and now everything is online. So the first thing is getting used to the new way of delivering training, and the second thing is people don't turn on their cameras, as you just pointed out. So it's like you know, it's like one-on-one engagement is missing. Like, how do you transform lives when you can't even see the person? Like, how can you bring in that energy and that enthusiasm when I'm not able to do, like, I'm putting in my maximum, and I'm like, oh my God, at least somebody turn on your camera. So there are 50 people on the call and 40 cameras are off.
Yes.
So that's one of my challenges.
I understand. And how's the business side of it?
No, it's slow. So clients that had booked sessions with us in December, January, they all canceled.
Oh,
100%. So the old orders all got like, oh, we're too busy right now. COVID is more priority. Our people are working from home, so we don't want to do this right now. And then, but we did find new clients. We did find a few new clients, and what we are doing more right now is creating a presence where we're able to deliver whatever we can through Zoom. So we haven't stopped, but it's mostly non-profit. It's voluntary. We're creating weekly lunch and learns just to educate people on our services. So eventually they'll hire us. And it has worked, by the way. So we did a lot of work for the quarantine support groups to boost their wellness, their happiness. And yeah, and so some people, when they found out that we were doing this for voluntary stuff, they called us and said, why don't you do it for our school, for our organization? So it has helped to some extent.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Mahesh. Thank you. Somebody else? what are the challenges you're facing? And it may be connected with COVID. It may not be connected with COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
Manoj, may
telling
I say
Aljor.
something? Yeah.
Yes, Nisha,
Sure,
go
sure,
ahead.
Nisha.
Yeah. So I come from one of the most badly hit industry, which is tourism and hospitality. So I used to provide
I agree.
training and consultancy work. So as what was mentioned earlier, training the industry we don't see face to face. So the challenge is how do you create a curriculum that is we could do it online as effectively as possible. And of course, when you don't see people, especially in my industry, which is a high touch industry, to train
Yes.
not facing people is really tough, because the essence of our training is based on service encounters. And the other big challenge is, of course, being the industry that's so badly hit, and with so many businesses going bust at the moment, our clients are so afraid to commit to consultancy work. And we really don't know how the force is going to change, right? Because the whole business
Yes.
and the industry has completely changed for us. So we don't even know what to pitch now, because we don't know what the industry is going to be like. So that's another thing. Well, what's the focus? What do we do? How do we evolve? So, but we are trying. We're coming into new niche areas of consultancy. But yeah, this is a big challenge at the moment. Thank you.
Thanks, Nisha. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
Somebody else?
Myself, Cecilia.
Yes, Cecilia.
So I shifted into coronavirus related business, and we sent many masks to Dubai for starting the stock sales. But all the masks have been getting returned because of bad quality. And so I'm dealing with this problem right now. And the samples of our masks went to like very big government officials and royal family in Dubai, and the impact is really big. So this is my business problem right now.
I get that. Big one. I agree. Thank you. Thanks for sharing.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yes. Somebody else, please. We would like to hear from all of you.
Maybe I can
give you another perspective.
go.
Sorry, you go.
So I'm based currently in Melbourne, and I run a consulting business helping Australian businesses enter the China market. As Joanne would confirm, we're in a very heavy lockdown because of a second wave hitting us a couple of months ago. And so we're confined to our quarters for all but 2 hours a day. All of our internal borders as well as our external borders are closed. So my job is meeting people, which we're not allowed to do currently. Hopefully that will open up over the next couple of months. So there's no meeting people, there's no traveling, either interstate or outside of the country. So we can't leave, and there's no one obviously being allowed in. So consistent with Nisha, it's very hard talking to my clients and getting a commitment from them, because we're in this bubble of chaos, confusion, and everyone's waiting to see how it's going to pan out. And I think probably until after Christmas and people start to get back to normal work, then they're in a better position to sort of commit to the future. But I think it's pretty clear from the people that I speak to that the world has changed. Yes. And so we just need to be open to different ways of doing things. Some things will change. Lots of opportunities are going to be out there. Some opportunities that were there before have disappeared. So I think, and certainly in my business, we just need to remain fluid, nimble, and just keep talking to my clients, see how they're going, and then pick up the reins when things start to get back to a COVID normal, as people keep calling it.
Great.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, Peter.
Thanks for sharing that. Yeah.
Irina?
Your word. We just had somebody from Melbourne participating in our last workshop, and we just came to know about how the complete lockdown has affected their business. They were in the food business, restaurant business, and they had to completely close down the restaurant. Good, thanks. Yes, somebody else.
I'll give you a different perspective.
Yeah.
Mine's completely opposite to everybody else's. I actually have more work, and I work in the IT industry, and I've had to learn to conduct, tender negotiations over these kind of mediums, and manage a team over this kind of medium. A lot of people working from home, keeping people's morale up when they're all locked down in Melbourne, and a lot of them are single, so they can't see other people. Also turn off the camera, not just turn it on, because sometimes you need to stand up and move, because it's meeting after meeting after meeting. So it's the complete opposite perspective, where you go from going to different meetings, but actually moving between rooms and office floors and so on, to environments where you're at the desk and you're locked to the desk, and you just keep clicking next. And yeah, so it's exactly the opposite perspective, different challenges.
Yeah, and some people are like working much more than what they were working earlier.
Yeah,
longer hours.
No, that's the case of, yeah.
Irina is one of them.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm one of them.
Yep, got the. Thanks for sharing. Okay. Somebody else? Let's have one more person share. Yeah, go ahead.
Who was
Hey,
it?
Bhima. Damien, we got your message. Very busy. Okay. Anybody?
Hey.
Hi, Damien. Would you like to share? Welcome. Good to see
Welcome,
you.
Dave.
How are you? Just adjusting my mic.
We're sharing about what challenges we are facing at this time, whether it's your business or your life.
I think a lot of people, that I know, the challenges they're facing, the ones that are facing challenges are generally due to not accepting change. So from a lot of people that I know, they're actually quite thriving in this environment because they've adapted, and they're going, well, okay, the world is different. It has changed, and it's not going back to how it was before. It will be forever changed. And so they've adapted and done very well. One business owners that I know, a group that a friend of mine has created for business owners. One of their clients, they manufactured jeans, and the market was gone. And they actually quickly shifted to manufacturing some hospital products and got some clients within the hospital sector, and then it's just boomed, and they're busier than they've ever been in the entirety of their business. So it's been a blessing for them, and a lot of people I know that are experiencing that same boom, that they've actually realized, many businesses, they realized that they actually are carrying a lot of fat that they were ignoring, and this has forced them to face that. And so I find from that challenge perspective, it's a matter of perspective. If you events are events. That's my belief. They're not good or bad. As seen Act 2, Scene 2 in Hamlet, nothing's good or bad, thinking makes it so. And yeah, I find from that perspective, there's so many people out there just doing really well. The ones that I see that are struggling are generally the ones that they're complaining about the environment and how it's, how this is all different. But that's life. This is a quick change, but life evolves. So, and it's really, I think it could be a great wake-up call for people to recognize that life does change, it grows, and if you don't grow and evolve, you become extinct.
And what's your business, Damien?
I work with large companies, mostly large companies, working on efficiency and improving the revenue and profit, so growing clients, growing customers, and just isolating and really narrowing down the focus so that they can do that. an example was this week, one of my clients wanted to expand into a government area, and they built a good reputation. They submitted some tenders for some large work. They were priced extremely expensive compared to other tenders, so they didn't get that work. But what the government organisation said, look, we're really impressed with what you've got, what we want to do, and if you're keen to work with us, we're keen to help you to understand the work so that you can better price. We'll flick you some smaller jobs, and that way you can get to better know what we need, and that way you can more effectively price. And that was the conversation I had was Wednesday. He said, look, we don't have anything at the moment smaller to flick you at the moment, but if you're interested, we'll do that. And I said, yeah, they're definitely interested. And then on Friday, I get an email going, here's a couple of small packages for you to price. We want you to do that work to get used to that. And this is where I say, from that perspective, it's isolating that niche, having that attitude of this is what I want to do, and yeah. So that's what I do.
Excellent. Thank you very much for sharing. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so let's look at what Theory U brings into this conversation. So as Aljor mentioned, that we are doing a lot of this OD, organizational development work, leveraging all the other management science, but leveraging it along with the Theory U principles by MIT Professor Dr. Otto Scharmer. So how many of you are familiar with the Theory U concepts? Anybody here? Okay, right. So of course, Joanne and Wang, you better be familiar, more than familiar. Otherwise, I will have to have a separate conversation with Aljor. Okay, so we're going to connect this. Right? So as most of us realize that the future has changed, right? And whatever we were expecting the future to be, we are clear that it would be very risky to have the same expectations. We really don't know how it will turn out. And all predictions are predictions. And you don't want to bet on the predictions. So one thing which was always there, and we used to already call it VUCA world, right? Most of you are familiar with VUCA since long, right? And for those of you not, it's volatility, ambiguous, right? And uncertainty and complex. But, and this was a term that I'm told that US Air Force or Marine, some of those people, they created in the 1960s. Now, I don't know what VUCA they were talking in 1960s when you look from what we are dealing with now, right? So this is like the VUCA raised to the power of X, right? And now, what we see is that most of our competencies, most of our organizational competencies and people competencies are built on looking at the past. Right? And most of our education is around building from the past. But that's not enough. And we are now forced to sense the future as it emerges. In the moment it emerges. It's not about predicting the future, but can you sense the future as it is emerging? And can you build your future that you want to build in sync with that emerging future? And if we don't, the emerging future, whatever wants to emerge, will emerge, and we are going to get disrupted. So very critical need is to develop a competency for ourselves and our teams and those of us who are working with our clients, for them also to learn sensing the future as it emerges. So if I look at Nisha, for example, right? If you're dealing with the tourism and the hospitality industry, right? And Damien and Peter, right? You also dealing with other businesses and other companies. And if they don't learn, sense the future will still come and they're going to get disrupted. Right? And then, of course, we can cry that, okay, we didn't do anything wrong, but it's not about doing anything wrong, right? It's about not sensing the future. So we need to, that we as individual leaders and we as the collective, representing the collective could be our team, the collective could be our organization, or the collective could be our clients. We need to sense that future. And most people have no competency to do that, because we have all mastered learning from the past. We have mastered, okay, we look at some concepts, some theories, something, and then we kind of have the ability to analyze, we then look at how do we apply this in this situation. So we are all great at that. But when it comes to sensing the future, you need different competencies and you need to do some different kind of unlearning also. So the base level competency, the ground level competencies that we talk about is deep listening, sensing, and sense making. And today we will go a little bit deeper into it and see some of the barriers that we will have to deal with, some of our enemies that we will have to deal with to develop these competencies. Okay. And then, of course, there is a beginning of the journey, and there is a big journey for all of us. But one important thing is, when we look at the past and leadership from the past, one of the common notions you hear is leadership as an individual phenomenon. Oh, this person is a leader, this person has leadership capabilities. But what is going to be required is maybe leadership as a collective phenomenon. Because if you sense the future, if you see that future, but if your team doesn't, if your client doesn't, they won't change. And you will break your head on trying to get them to change because you see something, but they don't see, they can't sense it, they won't change. Am I making some sense here? Okay, so by the way, you should interact and question whenever you want to. Okay, so the first thing that I'm pointing here is we need to develop these competencies as a collective, that you and your team and you and your clients and your collective, to sense the emerging future. And in that, the base level is we call the deep listening, sensing, and sense making. Right? And so how do you learn from the future as it is emerging? Right? So there are three phases, and this is what one of the famous philosophers, Brian Arthur, brought up, is the first phase is what we call as observe, observe, observe. So when you're in a new place, what do? You don't just go and try your old tricks there. When you're in a new place, the first thing you do is you do observation, and with the deep listening practices. And we're going to go a little deeper into each of these things that I'm talking about. But the first phase is observe, observe, observe. And we need to observe, not with the same old eyes. We need some new eyes. We need to hear with new ears. We need to observe with open mind, open heart, and open will. So one of the, I believe, most common assumptions on the planet or illusions on the planet is almost everybody believes I am a good listener. Right? How many of you know people who say, oh, I am a terrible listener, I never listen, I don't want to listen? Not many, right? Most people you find is what? Oh, everybody, I am a great listener. I can even repeat what you said. It's just that you never got my word. But yeah, you can maybe repeat what I said. And most people even don't care to do that. But there's a different level of listening we are going to talk about, and a different level of sensing that we are going to talk about. Okay, so the first phase is observe, observe, observe. With new eyes, new ears, open mind, open heart. And we're also going to talk about open will. Okay, and once you do that, you have a lot of data points. Then you got kind of the next phase, we call it as retreat and reflect. Okay, let me see if I can show you a slide just to. So as the slide comes up, I will also continue speaking, so we don't have to wait for the slide. But let me know if we can see the slide. Aljor, are you able to see the slide? You're on mute, Aljor.
Now we can, Manoj.
Now we can see it.
You see reimagining your business?
Correct.
I can see it, yes.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so now you see the U process. So three, the observe, observe, observe. And second is retreat and reflect. Now this is very important. I think this is where the magic will happen. Is we want to connect with our deeper sources of knowing and allow some inspiration, connect with the sources of inspiration. And when you do that, after observing, 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 some ideas like are just going to catch up your attention. Something will inspire you. And then when it does that, then you want to act in an instant. Then you don't want to get stuck into analysis paralysis, but you want to get into what we call as rapid prototyping. Some of you are exposed to design thinking. This is on the similar lines. We call it awareness-based design thinking under the theory of principles. So you do rapid prototyping and you want to test out your hypothesis and actually keep going out in the world with experimentation. And that's the whole game. So these are the three, on a 50,000 feet, these are the three main phases that you want to look at as you learning from the emerging future. So first is observe, observe, observe. Second is retreat and reflect. And third is act in an instant. Okay. So before I go ahead, let me see if you have any question or comments.
I think one of my challenges in business is also my attitude or my paradigm. Like I feel like defeated or like disempowered, and I don't know how to shift my, my attitude. It's not. I'm not coming from an inspiring place. I'm dealing with burnout and just negative thinking, and I think this is the biggest barrier in my business right now.
I hear you, and you're not alone. I would say 90% of us are in some phases of that from time to time, and you are also not in that phase all the time, right? But I hear you, and we'll give you some new access to that today. Okay.
Great.
Yep. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. Okay. Somebody else? Any questions, comments about what I said? Okay. Are you guys having a problem with my audio? Yeah, Peter, go ahead.
Oh no, there's a popping sound and I've muted everybody else, so it could be coming from you. I'm not sure. It's kind of like a popping sound.
Sorry, could I just ask a question there?
Yes, please.
I guess the question for me is what to observe. and at what level? I think
Yes.
probably like lots of people on this webinar, we've probably sat through way too many webinars over the last few months.
Yes.
But and inevitably you hear about artificial intelligence, big data, the Internet of Things, blah, blah, blah. So that's at a broad technological level.
Yes.
So are you
Yes.
suggesting we focus around that, or is it at a level down from that at a specific opportunity and observe that opportunity consistent or relevant to your situation or your business or a possible opportunity outside of your current business? So I'm just wondering about how you go about choosing what and at what level to observe.
I think that's a brilliant question. I would say what and where, okay? And I'm going to answer that in a second. Let me just try to fix the sound that Aljor is talking about. Guys, just give me 1 second, okay?
In the meantime, I'd like to share something.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Did it make any difference?
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Yes
gone.
to me. Anybody else? All good?
Yes, everything's
Okay, good.
Fantastic.
I think what Peter asked is a brilliant question, and I also sympathize with all of us who have attended a lot of workshops in this last 3-4 months. I think very important is what to observe, right? And where to observe. And then, of course, I'm also going to talk about how do we observe, right? But let's look at what to observe. So what are we listening for? We are listening for what is the emerging future in our business, in our industry, and for some of us in our client industries, right? What's the emerging future there? Now, I am definitely not talking about the AI and the MI game, but I'm more talking about connecting with various stakeholders. Okay. So if I can give an example, today only I was talking to CEO of an educational institute, educational company, and they run many private schools in India. Okay. And recently, even before COVID, last 2-3 years, that industry has been disrupted because of government bringing in a lot of rules and regulations controlling the private education companies. And then COVID has just thrown everything out of gear. Many parents have been affected by the COVID. Economy has been affected by the COVID. Now, because of that, or because of any other thought process, many parents are not paying fees. And this is like a huge organization with 13,000 employees. And when people don't pay fees, and they are not allowed to reduce the staff salaries, they're not allowed to retrench anybody. So they are like in a big fix. Okay, and then looking at how is this whole how do they survive for the next 2 years, because that's what they expect by the time the vaccines come and everything else, and for people to start paying and things coming back to full circle. So they were talking about like that. And so we're talking that we need to co-create the whole education business here, and I mean the schooling business here, right? So who are the stakeholders? So it's not going to be just the management teams. If you are just going to think within the management teams, you're going to think the same thoughts that you always thought, or some variations of it. But maybe they need to connect with the parents, and they need to connect with the government, and they need to connect with the teachers and the students, and actually see and sense something new, like listen to the whole space differently. And there will be a co-creation that will need to happen. Okay. So, Peter, trying to come back to your question of what, I would say we need to connect with the stakeholders, and I need to see how the stakeholders see this situation. Okay. And what are the things that are emerging from their world. And at some level, we will have to not, it will be like we'll have to work together with the stakeholders. Like it will be a collective creative. Whatever future we create, I see it would be a collective creativity than we just doing it to our customers. Am I making sense, Peter?
Yeah, sure. Understand.
Yeah. And so, and then where do we observe? It's also very important that we don't expect the future to emerge in our headquarters. Okay, it's not going to emerge in our headquarters. It's going to emerge in the periphery of our companies. It's going to emerge in the periphery of our industries. So it's will require us to see those players on the boundary, right? Like the front line, and see the world from the eyes of the, as I mentioned earlier, various stakeholders, including the vendors and the customers and people who are outside, who are not necessarily part of the core team which runs your traditional business. Right? So we need to connect with those people and start seeing the world from their eyes. That's what we are talking about to start with. Yeah. Peter, you're good with this for the time being?
Yeah, that's great. Thanks.
And you want to ask any follow-up questions, you're most welcome to do that. Okay.
Cheers.
Great. Anybody else? Anything? Any comments from what I said, or any questions that got triggered from what we just said? Okay, so let's look at what is the biggest problem to listen to the emerging future and to sense the emerging future. The biggest problem is we don't listen. We are not programmed to listen. And I know many of us have done 1,000 hours of coaching on, and we have coached the whole world on listening. And me and Aljor also fall into the same category, right? We have been teaching the whole world to listen, but we have no idea of what is listening and how much we are programmed to not listen. So we call it downloading. So we are in the world of downloading, and it's the voice of judgment and cynicism, right? Mostly the opinions and judgments here. And as I'm speaking, some of you might be able to catch your voice of opinion and judgment running. Right? And if you catch that, you can raise your hand. And if you don't, that's okay. But it would be smart to catch it, because I promise you it's running 24/7. Okay? It's like we are deaf. We can't listen. The only time we can listen is when we know that we are not listening. So we are so much into our downloading. So Cecilia,
Yes.
I am not sure if I pronounce your name correctly.
Yes.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Yeah. So consider that what you were talking about is the same thing. It's in the world of downloading. It's all the voice of opinion and judgment going on.
Yes.
Yes. So everybody, imagine that you are sitting in a circular room. Okay. Imagine that you're in the circular room and there are windows all across, but they have curtains. The windows are closed and there are curtains. And in the middle of the room is a projector. And it is projecting all the thoughts on the screen. And your whole life, you're seeing those thoughts. What is getting projected? And we are not saying that what is getting projected is wrong, but it's coming from what's going on in your mind. So you're looking, listening, you're watching, something inspires, something doesn't inspire, something, all that. But the only problem is it has got nothing to do with what's happening out there in the world. It's just the voice of judgment. The good, bad, ugly doesn't matter. It's the voice of judgment. And we are into that all the time. Especially when we think we are not. Okay, so what's required is we need to notice that we are in the voice of judgment. First step. And then maybe, okay, go to the windows, open the curtain, open the window, and look outside. Look out there where people are, where others are, and look out. So we call it open mind. We also call it the factual listening. Okay. And this factual listening is when you get contradictory data to what you already know. Contradictory interpretation that what you already have. So what's the proof that you are listening? The proof of listening is when you come up with, oh my God, I didn't think this way. Or, oh, this is new perspective or new data. I didn't have that. I need to now rethink whatever was my logic or whatever was my decision. So if it doesn't force you to question your thinking, maybe you are not listening. Right? Maybe if it just matches your old world, then you are listening through downloading or through the voice of opinion and judgment. And if you're listening through opinion and judgment, how do you know? You know that after the interaction, you are the same person. No new data, no new perspective. Then maybe you weren't listening in that conversation. And how many meetings, how many conversations do we have where at the end of those meetings and conversations, we are the same person? A huge number, right? Very close to 100%. So try on that the real listening, the factual listening, the real listening where we say the listening begins, the factual listening is when you start seeing contradictory data, right? And contradictory interpretations, different perspectives, something which forces you to pause and reflect and question. And if it doesn't do that, then maybe I'm not guaranteeing anything, and I'm not some authority to say that, but it's like a good idea to question, am I really listening? So again, I'm going to take a help of a slide to share something with you. Of course, wait. Oh, yes. Okay, can you see a slide? It says levels of listening. Okay, yes. Great, thank you.
Yeah, it's up, it's up.
Okay, good. So so where we are, all of us, we have permanent occupation, accommodation. We have our palatial housing in level 1. This is where we live, level 1, right? Sorry, I did something and it changed the slide. Okay, yeah. So this is where we are. We are in the habits of judgment all the time. And whenever we are in that world, we are just reconfirming our opinions and judgment about people, about circumstances, about ourselves. or business, economy, government, you name it. So the level 2 listening, which is what we call as the where the listening really begins, open mind, is the factual listening where you notice differences. You discover some disconfirming, contradictory data. Like you opened the window and you saw things outside instead of looking at the projections of your mind. And then level 3 listening is what we call as empathic listening, where you would actually open your heart and build an emotional connect. Is going back to the example of your being in the closed room. You actually step out of the room and you go out where people are, and from there you look back. It's like you play a dual role, like you're here and you go out of the room, and then outside, stand outside, and from there, from people, you look back at yourself and you look back at the room, which is like turning the camera around. And you see yourself, you see your company, you see your business, you see your industry from the eyes of other stakeholders. Like going back to the example I was talking about, this education, the school industry, like they will have to see themselves from the eyes of the customers and the eyes of the parents and the students and the various other stakeholders. Unless and until they see that, they're going to only believe in what their mind is projecting, which is not going to be sufficient to create a powerful future. Okay, so again, let me pause. Questions?
Look, I think this is really important, listening. And I think a lot of us fall into the trap of having some alternative view or facts presented to us. And as you get older, I think you get more.
Sorry, I think to have developed some problem with my computer for a moment. It will get sorted out, but I'm with you on my mobile. So can you, yeah, so if you have questions or comments of whatever we said earlier, please do that. Peter, you.
Actually, yeah, Peter's sharing. Go
Yes,
ahead, Peter.
Peter.
Yeah, just on the point of listening, I think it's critical to engage in active listening. I think sometimes we fall into the trap of hearing something that we disagree with, or some new information that is unpleasant, and where sometimes, and I know I've done this myself, thinking about how I can counter some of those views and try and either disprove what the other person is saying or prove that you've got the correct view. And I think we miss out on a lot of information because others have got different background, different experiences, different expertise. And if we close down that conversation by not listening effectively, then we miss out on a lot of learning in that, which I think is part of the point that you're making, that we could be standing face to face with someone, but we're not actually listening. We're thinking about what to say next. And so we're not actively engaging with that other person, and it's not an effective conversation. And as I say, I think we can miss out on a learning experience there by not opening up, not opening yourself up, asking questions, clarifying what the person is saying. I think it's a really important point.
Yeah.
On that, it's very true. What you're saying is we do tend not to listen, and linked to our beliefs. I mean, we build up our beliefs over repetitive thoughts that we have, usually from when we were young, and then we will defend those thoughts. I mean, there's lots of psychology tests and reports and analysis on that, and people will just, even if they've got concrete evidence that shows their belief is wrong, people will defend that belief in the face of absolute proof that their belief is wrong, and they'll hold on to it. And that's part of the reason why we don't listen, because if someone's saying something that's contrary to our beliefs, then we'll defend our beliefs, and that's why we reject it. We're too busy then starting to think of how we're going to defend our beliefs, and that's why we fall into that trap of thinking that way. While someone's talking, we're busy thinking of a response because we're unconsciously starting to defend our beliefs. And this is where you can also you can identify if you do this. If you catch yourself saying, life is hard and things like that, there's a lot of people that life is not hard for. If I was to show you a puzzle and say, do this puzzle, it might be challenging. But if I gave you the instructions, which give you a step-by-step way of doing the puzzle, that puzzle then is easy. It's not a problem. And life is the same way. There's a lot of people that do life very, very easily because they're following the right instructions. But not everyone has got those beliefs, and hence we have that problem, and that's why we don't listen.
And I think even worse than that, it seems to be more and more that in the political arena, and certainly the media, if they don't like the message, then they don't attack the message, they actually attack the person to discredit them, and therefore discrediting the view that they're expressing, which I really think is unfortunate, and it's a really bad development.
Yeah.
It's interesting what the two of you are saying, Peter and Damien. I just want to chime in here because, I'm part of this Melbourne environment, so I know what you're talking about politically speaking. But it really brings us back to what Manoj was talking about, which is when we are listening, or we think we're listening, what we're really doing is we're assessing what's going on to see if it fits into our perspective, whether we agree with it, whether it's right, whether it's wrong. We make an observation of what we think is happening out there. So that really takes us away from listening for what's really going to make a difference. And usually, interestingly, I have found this while applying this particular technique in my life. And for me, I see it the clearest in my conversations with my ex-husband. I know this is a business thing, but I think, if I use this particular example, I may be able to say this clearer. I can't hear anything that he's trying to say to me when I'm constantly judging what he's saying. So the moment I'm willing to suspend my judgment, I'm now able to hear what he's trying to tell me, and I'm able to then connect and say, all right, this is how we're going to go forward constructively. So for me, this is something I think a lot of us intuitively, we understand, we know, that we are judging, we are assessing. But I think that the gem for me, when I learned this work in the beginning, is really recognizing that, wow, I'm really doing that 24/7 all the time. And if I'm willing to suspend, even for a split second, I just might hear something I didn't hear before. And it has served me tremendously. And that's just one area of my life. So,
Joanne. No, but it does apply. I can relate to that from a personal perspective, and also too from a business perspective. And I've just picked up from one of my clients, there's a major dispute happening. It's the quantum is $55 million that they're arguing over. And I were reading the correspondence, and you can see in both parties, they're not listening to each other. And we're talking, letters that are 25 pages long, and they're just going tit for tat. You said this, no, this is this, and neither, you can see it in the writing. They're not listening to each other. They're just saying, this is my point. And so I've immediately taken a reframe on that, and just said, look, this is the position as we see it. I think we need to explore this more, because I'm trying to bring it back. It's gone through the dispute process. We're at mediation. One next step is court. So I've just said, look, we really need further analysis. Let's sit down and have a chat. And I just said, look, we acknowledge that there's some stuff there. And I gave them some acknowledgements. And in the meeting that we had on Friday, the senior rep from the other side, this is, and they're a global company, he said, I really appreciate, I actually gave, like you just did, Joanne, I gave an analogy to marriage, that we're actually two companies in marriage counseling. And I was making it as a joke, and it went silent, and I was like, oh my God, that hasn't worked. And then someone did laugh, and they go, and so then the senior director of the company said, no, I think that's a really appropriate, and that's the senior director of the other side said, I think that's a really appropriate analogy, and I'm glad that you've taken that approach, and we're starting to be listened to, which is coming back to what we were talking about. And so it's doesn't matter how big it is, the numbers are just zeros. It's the interaction between people, and it's the emotions between people. You could see, $55 million dispute, and it was just emotional backwards and forwards. And as soon as you said, hey, I'm listening to you, all of a sudden, everyone started to calm down. So it seems like it should be able to pull us back from a litigation process.
Yeah.
Thank you, Damien. Thank you for sharing that.
So great, thanks. And I would like others also to come into the conversation. Right? But the one thing that I would like to share is, like, on this call, how much time have you spent? Around 33 minutes? No, 1 hour, 3 minutes?
45,
yeah.
let's say 45 minutes.
How many times did you catch that you're not listening, or you're listening through your judgment? I caught myself at least 5 times.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in a way more, but like, I actually been catching myself since last 2 days about this call. Like, oh my God, Aljor is inviting everybody. I hope I do a good job. Otherwise, I will kind of disappoint Aljor. And it's all going on. And then I see everybody, and I hope people don't have a problem with my accent. And people are not going to put their videos on. And then they're like, okay, Peter looks like a smart executive, like those big shots in big companies. Oh, so it's like in the background, I don't even notice it. It's like I have to work consciously to notice it. And as people are sharing, I'm like, you have to catch. How am I putting my judgment here? So it's what I'm trying to share is, it's a moment by moment challenge. It's not something that we know conceptually. Like when you started agreeing, I said like, oh my God, these people are agreeing. I don't know whether they're really getting it. Because there's nothing to agree here. So again, coming back to, it's not a concept. All of us know this as a concept, like we can teach the world 20 times over. But the point is, in the moment, can we catch? Am I listening? Or am I listening from my judgment? So when we are doing coaching workshops, and recently I was doing a coaching workshop around 2 weeks back, where one of the big CEO of a hospital, doctor, he said, oh, I agree with this. And I said, I don't. And then he says, I don't agree with this at some time. I said, why do you think I am even interested in whether you agree or not? That's not the point here. The point is, are you seeing from this perspective? Are you willing to see from this perspective? Are you willing to explore from this perspective? If you agree, it's as useless as you disagree. Because where are we going to go with agreement, disagreement? It's more about moment by moment awareness. It's an awareness conversation. Right? So, like, I had to catch myself 5 times or more in this call, and then I was talking to you about this, my interactions with this education CEO, and I had to catch myself again at least 5-7 times on that call, and we were going through on this WhatsApp, and I am giving suggestions, and then that person is coming back with concerns, and it all started with, they sent me a press note saying 1,000 schools are getting closed, or they're up for sale in India. And I'm like, okay, all of a sudden I'm trying to bring in a positive thinking. Okay, are we seeing something positive in this So it's just, you have to notice the automatic programming that's at play, right? And get into the other person's world. She's sharing her concerns, and I have to catch myself from going into the solutions to just getting her world. Okay, so just watch out for that. Watch out for making it into a concept. It won't make any difference. Okay, so I was talking about the biggest enemy is the downloading, and you have three enemies actually. We call them VOJ, VOC, VOF, which is voice of judgment, voice of cynicism, and voice of fear. And in the workshop, we spend a lot of time on this, but I'm sure you can connect. Whatever is stopping us, right, to see new things is connected with voice of judgment. Whatever is stopping us from connecting to people who are different than us is connected with voice of cynicism. And whatever is stopping us to let go of the past is connected with voice of fear. And as we are talking about reimagining our businesses, we'll have to deal with all of them. Like, there's going to be a lot of fear for us and for people when it comes to looking at business in a new way. You know, this business model, which I have worked for last 20 years, not going to work. And I need to change the business model. And if we think fear is not going to come up, I don't think we are dealing with reality, right? We need to have the space for our own voice of fear and people's voice of fear to come up. And like if you look at all of you, what you shared in the starting, Mahesh and Nisha, and Cecilia, Peter, Irina, Damian, how many of you see that people that you are dealing with, they have some voice of judgment, some voice of cynicism, some voice of fear affecting their thinking and performance? Do you see something like that?
Yeah,
Peter?
definitely. I mean, from that perspective, there's listening to people, and there are different dynamics in how people communicate, and from that perspective, I found, using that example I had before with the dispute, there was some very, especially even in writing, some very emotive language, very judgmental, very much forming a point of view, saying this is the case, without actually having established why it's the case. It was very emotionally driven, and it's certainly very much judgmental, and probably out of fear too. They've got a massive issue on that other side, because they've no doubt reported into the board what they think they're going to get, which is going to be nowhere near what they're going to get, and they're starting to see that, and it's becoming very emotive point of view. So there's all these dynamics there to play with, and something from, you know, in a negotiation perspective, when you're dealing with that, listening and paying attention to what people are saying, I've got to recognize that they're those issues. You can't just have a sudden resolution. It's actually got to filter through all these other steps. You know, they've reported into the board they're going to get a lot of money. They're not. So now I've got to get this through without getting into dispute. It's like going, well, how do we step them through the process so they can actually have that time frame to report that to the board, that there has actually been a change in what they should be expecting, and it's feeding that to them by understanding that fear, and allowing them to deal with that to bring them back from that, and giving them a way out as well. So.
Yeah. So there are two levels that we have to look at, right? And I'm want to keep including everybody. So there are two levels. One is this voice of judgment, cynicism, and fear is affecting people around us, and it is affecting us at the same time. So we are listening to their voice of judgment through our voice of judgment, and we are listening to their fears from our voice of judgment and cynicism and fear. So we need to see the double play that is going on. And yeah, Lisa, so I get that perspective that it's money, but maybe it's also, if you see, I don't know what case you're talking about, so I don't want to comment. I don't have the required information. But I invite you to look from that there is a voice of judgment and there is a voice of cynicism and there's a voice of fear that's playing both sides, where we are and where people are, right? So that's one dimension, one pillar of the conversation that I want to put here. And then I want to bring in another dimension, completely different dimension. And the dimension here is ego versus eco. Okay. So as we look at reimagining our business, we want to look at how much of our ego drives our business. And when I say ego, what I mean here is the silo thinking. Okay, so the boundary in our thinking. So when I say me, that's ego. When I say my department, that's ego. When I say my company, that's ego, because I'm putting a boundary to that. When I'm saying my industry, that's an ego. When I say my country, it's an ego. You're putting a boundary to our thinking. Again, giving an example from one of my conversations with another CEO is a manufacturing company, and he says, oh, we are always interested in the welfare of our employees, and we want them to learn and them to grow and all that stuff. And I said, yeah, your ego is expanded from me to me and my employees, but still then it got connected. There's the boundary to your thinking, right? Consider most of the time we are all thinking from that world of ego. Okay, and we can see all over the planet, everywhere, our businesses, all the impact of ego thinking, which is a silo thinking or thinking within a certain boundary. What it also means is it is ego. Another way to understand ego would be inclusive of some, and it excludes everybody else. Right? So, oh, it should do great for my company and my investors and my stockholders. Okay, what about everybody else? Oh, God will take care of them. Okay, or oh, it should do good for these people, and then what about everybody else? Okay, we'll pray for them, or I don't care about them, whichever way you look at it. So there is an ego thinking, which is this boundary thinking, silo thinking, thinking for some people's benefit without being mindful of the impact on the others. Two, eco thinking. And eco thinking, if we look at the word eco, it comes from the understanding of eco as like seeing it as whole. Like when you say the whole planet is my family, right? It's the house, the whole thing is one. Right? In Indian language, in one of the Indian languages, we say Vasudeva Kutumbakam, which means the world is my family. Right? And I'm sure in many cultures we would have something similar. Basically, we are all on this one, like I like this word, they called it spaceship Earth. We are all on the same spaceship. Right? And we're interconnected. And I'm sure that we have seen enough of the interconnection. So eco is being all inclusive. Right? And ego is including some and everybody else is not on the radar, right? They don't show up in your thinking. So when we look at our businesses from the ego perspective, you see a certain way. But when you reimagine them from an eco perspective, you can see differently. Okay. So I'll again try to give you an example here. We were coaching one of the medical practitioners here. He's treating patients with paralytic effect. Right? So he's a small time practitioner. So I asked him, okay, how many patients do you serve every month? He says around 90 to 100 people visit every month. Okay, and then his whole services that he offers, and he has packages and all that, he gets all around those 90 to 100 people. I said, okay. And what is the geographical area? And some of you from the marketing background may call it a catchment area, right? From where people come to your clinic. Okay. And he said, he explained to me, and I said, in this geographical area, how many patients have this problem? So he says around 100,000 people. So I said, one way is you can have a business model which is around this 100 people. Or you could have a business model around serving this 100,000 people. But then you'll have to shift from selling or whatever polished way you have about that to actually serving the 100,000 people. But if you created the whole business from serving this 100,000 people, what do you think would be possible? And then he went on to create ideas and he discussed with the team, and it's like the whole view for his business altered. As coaching a consultant who works in the lean management business, and they're doing good job in teaching lean management techniques to people. And I was interacting with him and doing some coaching and looking at his whole life. And he was saying, yes, I want to do this. And then I also want to do these 2-3 other activities as my contribution in the society. I said, that's great. But how about you having this business that you're doing itself be the biggest contribution to the society? And then he's looking at, okay, instead of this, my whole business model around this 100 people, 200 people that we are coaching, to looking at how do we actually serve the small and medium enterprise in India. And in India, and I'm thinking it would be similar in many other countries, that small and medium enterprise is almost like 80% of the economy. So in that moment for him, when he shifted from business as just that he's going to get his money to pay his bills, to he can actually have his business as his vehicle for contribution and serve a much bigger group, his whole thinking shifted and is creating new ways to work. He's now collaborated with 3 more people, and the whole business model is shifting. Okay, so this is just to trigger your thoughts, and there are many more ways to look, but fundamentally, I'm inviting you to look from bringing in a perspective of shifting from ego to ego. Okay, so let me hear from some of you how you see any connection to your businesses. Anybody? Yeah, Mahesh.
Yeah, I mean, I love the idea because I look at it what we are doing.
Yeah.
Yes, we are serving corporate clients, and yet because of what happened with the situation, we turned our attention to open it up, like let the community, give them access to all the tools that we have free of charge, at least to show them that, hey, we care. This is a bad time. This is a challenging time for everybody. And so we're going to provide these tools to help you get past this. Now, part of it came from, yes, it is an eco model, as you suggested, because let's expand our hearts and reach more people. And also at the same time, our expectation was maybe we'll get more corporates as a result of that.
Yeah.
So I totally agree that what we did, yes, it has impacted, but it's slow. It's not that, it's not picking up to the degree that I expected. I wanted it to happen like, oh, it's going to happen in 2-3 months, but it's taking 6 months. So yeah, just that. But I do agree that when we serve a larger community.
So where are you operating? Which city, which country?
In Hong Kong.
In Hong Kong, okay.
Yeah.
And
so here, of course,
how many people?
Yeah.
What's your target market?
The target market is corporates, government, hospitals, education services, because like, for example, the teachers, they are under a lot of stress to deliver education.
So
it's like,
so I was just going to ask you, sorry, I'm interrupting, just excuse me, I was just going to ask you, how many people in Hong Kong need wellness coaching? And you were answering that. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's like there's an unlimited. It's not wellness coaching. It's like simple tools that you can get present to. Life is not about fearing what is out there. There is so much more to life, and you can take your precautions, like shutting down the economy. I think that's a bit of a overdone thing. But like people are like, oh my God, like I can't operate. What's going to happen? There's so much fear. People are not investing money. People are not expanding their businesses. Everybody's like really fearful, and there is no fear. I mean, yeah, it is a situation. I'm not saying that it's wrong or bad, but come on, we can do something about it. So getting people present to look, you're alive. Look, you can do these little things to prevent, breathing exercises, yoga, like simple stuff that I feel that I can help the community because I practice this. And for the first 3 months, I didn't even wear a mask. I didn't even need to, like, oh my God, I'm walking normal until the government said everyone has to wear a mask. Only then I started wearing a mask. So the thing is, there's so much we can do to educate people on getting out of that fearful situation.
Okay, good. I am from a different environment, which is India, and where we are having a very different COVID problem. So I don't want to comment about your mask thing, because I get pretty pissed off with people not wearing the mask. And we are the COVID situation here is actually becoming worse day by day. But the real point I think you're getting is, if you start to reimagine your business from an eco perspective, like, what is the biggest contribution that your business can do on the planet? And I don't mean to, I don't think, I don't mean as a free thing. I mean as a business model around what is the biggest contribution you can do. Right? That's a different perspective than limiting it to a smaller game. And one of the things that I have realized from working with you is, when you start looking from how your business as a business can make the biggest difference, you will have many different kind of partners that will show up, many different collaborations that you can show up, which would never show up in your ego business. But the moment you get into eco business, you will find many people, many companies, many groups would be willing to partner because they are inspired by the eco context.
Yeah.
And of course, you will have to do it like genuinely, not like a marketing trick, because people are, it's not going to work, right?
No, in fact, you're right. I'll give you an example. Like, so we started with Zoom. Like, we were not aware how we would do it. Now, we did about 30 sessions free of charge just to enable the community. And then suddenly I get a request from New York. There's a JCC club, and they're like, oh, can you do a session for us? I had another request from Middle East. So we did a session for Qatar, and it was attended by people from Kuwait, from UAE. And then even Debbie, who's on this group, she arranged a session for us with us, and it was attended by people from Vietnam, from Malaysia, from all over Asia. So it's really, the market is not Hong Kong. Now that I know the technology can be used to serve people, you can go anywhere.
Great. So, perfect. Thank you very much.
The possibilities are.
Yes, perfect. So let me hear from some other people. What do you see in your business where you see the possibility of shifting from the ego thinking to the eco thinking? Anybody? Or if you have some question around it, it would be a good time to ask.
Just picking up your point about silos.
And
I'm just wondering how that concept works in larger organizations. So in my previous life, I worked many years in the finance area, CFO for various businesses, and I've worked in all types of businesses, from the largest in Australia to medium to small businesses, even a couple of startups with a handful of people. And my experience is that the larger the organization, the taller and thicker the silos are. And that's encouraged, right? Because you've got the CEO or the board wanting accountability and giving responsibility for the performance of different parts of the organization. So you've got someone in charge of a group, and they're managing that group, and then you've got rules and procedures and policies and bureaucracy that encourages those silos to remain as is. And so I think lots of larger organizations struggle with this cross-functional cooperation.
Yes.
Moving from ego to an eco process and there's enormous benefits moving in that direction, but I just feel like it's much easier concept to implement successfully in a smaller, medium-sized business than a huge conglomerate, a huge multinational company. I'm sure things can be done to encourage that, but it's just much tougher, I guess, to.
That has been my experience too. And where we have found maximum success is where we are working with the CEOs, promoters themselves, and they are fully on board. Like they are willing to see. Like we were doing this workshop, Aljor and I, we were doing this workshop in Thailand for a mid-sized company, and we had this. We had the first day of the workshop, and then we were together for the dinner, and the CEO was sharing about, oh, this head of this business department, she has this problem and she has this problem, and customers have this complaint about her and all that stuff. And I told him, you're talking as if it is her problem and not your company problem. It is a whole company. And then some other discussions came up, and we were looking, and next day morning when we started the session, he stood up first and he said, okay, listen, I have created the silos in this company, and I have managed the existence of the silos because I thought that would make it life easier for me to manage. And now I realize that this is causing a big damage to the organization. And he's been actively involved in the whole transformation of the organization. Like he and the core team participate in every workshop, every interaction that we are doing with them. And so I have personal experience where the top people themselves are actively involved. That's where the difference will make maximum. Whether it's the mid-size, I have more experience of the mid-size transformation. And that's where we have seen it. And also in the large ones where we have had a very positive experiences is where the SBU head, that particular business unit head, was involved. And they were like, he or she was actively enrolled into shifting from ego to eco. So we were working with SAS, and we were working, most of you might have heard of this company, right? So we were working with a particular business unit of SAS, and that business unit head who is taking care of India and most of Asia. And since he was fully enrolled and he got his core team involved, that transformation worked out quite well. But then we couldn't expand beyond it at least as of now, right? So I get what you're saying. I think it's easier where people are already evolved to some degree or already willing to see things from a different perspective. Yeah, that definitely helps. Okay, right.
Hey, Manoj, I want to share something that may
Sure.
be more appropriate to this conversation.
Yes.
So when I first heard of this work, and especially when one of the really pillars of this work is about ego to eco, in my thinking, I'm thinking, okay, great, that's a great principle for maybe NGOs or maybe for people who are involved in social change, right? But what's that got to do with my business? Because I have been an entrepreneur all my life, and even even up to that point, my thinking is that business is about maximizing your growth and sustainability for my business. And so I saw ego to eco as something, oh, it's something altruistic, it's great, it's nice, that should be left for those people who really want social change and NGOs and things like that, until I did it. And then this is what I got. As a business leader, as someone who's a change maker, we're trying to get our business from one place to another place, some future, whatever that is, okay? And the shift from ego to eco, when I really saw that and I really got that, gave me a deeper sense of creativity. It's really more a place to come from in looking at the whole thing. You include your enterprise and including the whole ecosystem that you're at work on. And when that happens, I started seeing new possibilities that I didn't see before. So it's a greater sense of a deeper sort of creativity, and I was able to connect with emerging opportunities that I wouldn't have seen if I was just myopically looking at my business with what I want to happen, rather than looking at everything how this involves everybody else. And now, my work with Manoj, and like I said earlier, with the GTC people, is a function of that. I would have never even looked at collaborations with other groups of trainers in the world, because I was too busy developing my own programs. Okay, so for those of you, that might give you something, that by a shift from a system ego thinking awareness to an ecosystems awareness, or an ecosystems awareness, gives you a different sense of creativity. You kind of somehow find a different source of looking at things and being creative with it, and be able to see opportunities or emerging opportunities and kind of get connected to that. So that's my share.
Great.
Great. Thanks, Manoj.
Yeah, and I think Weng wanted to say something. Welcome, Vinith and Paul.
Hey. Yeah, go for it. Sorry. Hey, Manoj, if you've got time, I potentially would like to share some thoughts on this eco versus ego later on. That's fine.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I just my share is about what you were talking when you were talking about ego to eco.
Yeah.
What's so present to me in that moment is the downloading inside my head. Like, is this even possible with what's happening right now? Like, how can I expand myself more when what I'm getting into is too much already, and everything is uncertain. Like, all the noises in my head, all the automatic downloading. I'm just so present to that. And then that's the time when I catch it and set it aside, and I catch it and I set it aside, and really listen to what you're saying. That had me experience wonder. Like, what would it look like if I'm going to choose a life worth living, and choosing a life that's contribution to the world? Like, I'm so present. We always say it. I always say it. But what does it look like in reality? And then the downloading comes back. It's too difficult. Like, am I good enough? Am I intelligent enough? Right? And then set it aside, So, yeah, that's what I wanted to share. It's, for me, personally, it sounds scary, but it's very inspiring. It sounds scary, but the question is it worth my life? Like, even 0.1 dent in the world for this life, is it worth the fight? So that's what I wanted to share.
Great, Weng. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Weng.
Yeah, Vinith, go for it.
Yeah, hey, Manoj. So I just wanted to share a couple of examples around this eco versus ego. And I think it's more of it's about a mindset thing, what you can bring to the table. So I have worked, and I still work with a lot of large corporate organizations, global organizations. And I've seen some countries at the federal government level where they've seen some changes. I think idea is to be proactive in your approach and bring all your chips together. So like all departments, as you call it, or all business units, as you call it, the silos, howsoever you want to call it. But if you want to bring them together for decision making right at the start of anything, that makes a huge impact. So as an example, I used to do consulting for a multi-billion-dollar international organization into capital projects. So they used to develop hydropower projects.
Right.
So guess what? The design is developed in Europe, and the project site is somewhere in Asia. There is no connect, and design is based by the engineers based on the logistics of Europe.
Yeah.
And the supply chain in Asia is trying to use those drawings, those outfits to make procurements, make their factories and fit to do a fit to size.
I get your word. Yeah.
It's absolutely different. So we just changed the dynamics. I said, Nana, this is causing you billions of dollars of losses, billions, and I'm talking like serious financial impacts. And their projects are behind the schedule by like years. They're paying penalties to the contractors, to the and they're losing left, right, and center. And the biggest of all is the reputation damage. So one tender goes wrong, and these are expensive tenders, and you are kind of blacklisted forever. So we changed. So we actually put. So it's all about kind of bringing the real impact in front of the organization. Sometimes the silo thinking is all about showing what's my loss in financial terms. And that too, each department would like to show their dollar losses. No one is looking at the cumulative numbers. And more than the dollar values, it's all about the future impact of your loss of business. You could be like going into this, what do you call that, winding up forever. You would never, ever get a new contract. So we changed that. So we just brought them forward. We brought the European team. We brought the Asian team together. I said, hey, we understand your designs, but you need to kind of either customize to the requirements of the site or let the team working on the site take some decisions. And they said, what do you mean you want them to take some decisions? I said, you need to empower them. You need to empower the localized team to take some decisions. And you want to create a hierarchy, that's understandable, but you can't really go with an approach like it's my way or highway, that we have done it in Europe. We have 100 solid experiences and they would work in Asia. I said, no, it's absolutely different dynamics. It doesn't work. So all of us need to evolve, and that's where it comes. So I think it's all about bringing your minds together. But yeah, I think the strategic way of thinking is very critical on how you want to really sell this idea. Because if you don't sell it, so before we jumped into this project, the company has existed for more than 120 years. And they have been making consistent losses for that many years in some of their locations.
Yes, I get your saying. And at the same time, what is important is, see, this ego to eco is not only when the money is involved, right? That's fine. But the ego to eco is also from the company looking at, one is of course internally in the company and the breaking the silos of the business, SBUs and the departments and the geographies and all of that, but also going beyond the company, because the company itself is also an ego. Like when you limit your thinking to the boundary of a company, that again is an ego. Ego is basically a boundary to your thinking, right? So when you also start looking, okay, how does it affect the other stakeholders? And when you're willing to look from, one of the concepts that we have in this workshop is called turning the camera around. Right? When you look at yourself, your business, your organization, and your industry from the eyes of various stakeholders, right? And see what would really work for everyone. And for that, I don't know, Vinith, if you were there in the starting, people will have to go beyond the voice of judgment and the voice of cynicism and the voice of fear. And but thanks, I get that point. And that's like those big projects are definitely one place, but that you can see the big damage of ego, but you'll also see it between the company and like the big potent example right now is Facebook versus the world, right? So yeah, it maybe things are working great for Facebook in terms of their finances, but okay, what's happening to the world inside of that?
That's right.
And many of the industries will have to think of how it's how their business practices, models, policies, products, and people are actually affecting the whole, right, on the planet, because that's like keeping on expanding. It's a continual game. Keep on expanding the boundary to your thinking. Okay, right. There, like we just touched around 2-3 concepts, and there's like an ocean of things that we wanted to touch, and of course this thing. But I'm going to kind of pause here. So, Cecilia, you were saying something.
Maybe I'm not very well at, listening, but I'm having a hard time connecting to my life and this ego and eco. Like, can you help me understand? As I told you, my business with masks.
Yeah.
I have all these masks that we air flew from Korea to Dubai, and
Right.
the big commercials, 3 billboard signs, and the strings keep falling off, and people are returning it. And how does the ego and eco come into this? Like, and also the chairman of the company who supplied me the mask, I asked him what we can do about refund, and he exited the group room, and he won't take my mobile phone. And I'm really I'm sure I have a lot of I'm in a breakdown, and I have a lot of trouble in Dubai now, my reputation and everything.
Yes.
Like, how do I shift? Like, what can I do that's powerful from here?
Yeah. Yes. I hear you. So firstly, it's like, one is when you look at ego, right? So one is you can look at your personal losses, right?
Yes.
And they will be there, and they are there, and I don't know how big they are and how much they are going to hurt you. I have no idea of that, right? But I know that they will be there, right? And then there is this. If you look at the mask, it's a very easy example to look, that they were for the benefit of the people, right?
Yes.
To protect them from catching the COVID, right?
Yes.
So now, if you look at from the eco perspective, is if they're not going to protect them from, if they're not going to protect them, then they're not ready for sale. Right? Those products are not good for sale, right? So definitely that from the eco perspective you look at, that product has to be sent back, right? And that's what's there right now. With regards to how do you deal with this issue, I'm sure there are 500 ways to deal with it, but you first place you would have to stand in that, yes, these products are, like, from the eco perspective, when you look at, they're not working for the society, right?
Yes.
Now you could go back, I don't know, I'm just having a crazy thought right now. You could go back to your people, your contacts in Dubai, right? And you could say, okay, listen, I need your support. I bought all this from this company, and this company is not supporting right now. Can we do something together so that this company learns to give good quality marks? Right? I don't know, but definitely this company, unless you find out, right? Maybe you'll have to also look at what is the contract, what is that stuff. But from a very limited information that I have right now, I see that the company also needs to see themselves in the business from the perspective of an eco, right? Which is like, if you're selling this kind of a product, and if you're not selling a product which works for the society, you are a dangerous business, right? And I know I'm saying all this from a very limited input that I have, right? And I would look at, okay, this kind of company needs to get educated, right?
Cecilia, I'd also add to that, one of the things that I've dealt with when you've had those situations where it's just blown up in your face is approaching it from the perspective of one, always be authentic. Yeah. So in your response, you deal with it in an authentic way. Things don't always go your way, and I've had that in situations where I've been in, even in court, where I've represented things in court and it hasn't gone the way I've missed something because I just didn't have that level of experience. And so, but I approached it from an authentic perspective. And the other aspect you want to take to that, especially when you're talking about your attitude and the issues that you're saying with your attitude, is
don't go there. Damien, I recommend not go there. Don't go there. I recommend not go there right now.
I was just going to say, surrender the outcome. Don't try and.
I see, because we don't have enough information, right? So we need to be very careful. So, Cecilia, sorry, I got your pronunciation. Cecilia, sorry. Yeah. Cecilia, I recommend that you set up a call with me or Aljor later on, where we could understand it a little bit more, and then maybe we could give our 2 cents. Yeah.
Thank you. I've removed myself from. I was working in Seoul City, but I removed myself to the East Coast right now because I was fighting with everybody and I wanted to kill everybody around me, and I felt I was a danger to the city. And so, yeah, and I would like to know, I'm sending new sample masks to Dubai, and I'm trying to help my partner. I got an invitation from the royal family to meet with them next month, but with this disaster, I'm just trying to shift, like, how can I be powerful instead of like wanting to kill everybody, I don't know how to shift my energy and my my attitude, and okay,
I think
thank you.
You're at least on the right track, that you're noticing the challenge there, and I recommend that you be in a communication. It will take some little bit more time than just off the time that we have right now here.
Okay.
So be in touch with me. And whom did you connect? Who invited you to this workshop? Aljor. Okay, good. So you can reach out to Aljor, and he can also connect with me. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Great. So Aljor tells me it's time for me to shut up and allow him to speak. So over to you, Aljor.
No, I'd like you to complete it first, because now I'm going to give them. I'm going to give them the information.
Yeah. So no, go ahead, Aljor. No problem.
So like I said at the beginning of this conversation, that we really created this conversation as a promotion for the workshop that we're actually having. So I want to give you information for that, and those of you who registered on this through Eventbrite, I have all your information. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to send you an email and giving you the information. But now let me just share this. Can you see this?
Yes.
Everybody? Yeah. So it's called the Reimagining Your Business Workshop, and it happens on November 7th and 8th. This is from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Singapore time, or Hong Kong time, or Manila time. And your investment for that, for the 2 days, is $550. That includes all the taxes and the fees that Eventbrite charges. And to register, I will send you this, and you can just click the link and register right on Eventbrite. And for those of you who are local, or actually anybody, if you want to kind of skip the $50, you can direct deposit or transfer to this account number with the SWIFT code and just pay $500. Okay, so that's what the course is. Obviously, we created this because I want you to participate. I think it'll make a big difference. So this is a formal invitation that you do that. Okay, and obviously whether you do it or not, it's your choice, but I highly recommend it. Okay, so I will be sending this information plus a brochure to everybody who's in this conversation. And for me, I just want to thank you for being here. And Manoj, you want to complete? You're on mute.
Okay, if you didn't register through Eventbrite, and if you would like to have more information about our course and the work we do, please share your email ID on the Zoom chat right now. And or yeah, if you know Aljor, you could send him on his WhatsApp, or Wayne. If you know Aljor or Wang or anybody else, you can do that. Joanne, you can send it to them, right? Now, given so, let me just go a little bit more in this technology that we're working on. So this is a theory U, as we mentioned in the starting, and this has 3 phases. Okay, and we just talked about, like, we just touched the surface of the first phase. So the first phase is called transforming perceptions, which actually is transforming your reality, because there is nothing else in life except your perception. Whatever reality we call, that's our perception. And in our businesses are limited by the reality that we live in and the perceptions that we live in. So this is the level 1 workshop which we're doing on 7th, which is focusing on transforming the perception. And we just began to touch the surface here, but there will be a huge set of principles and practices and actual tools that you will practice, which will help you alter the way you see life, alter the way you see the circumstances and challenges and problems, and also alter how people see you, right? Because that's a very critical part of transforming perceptions, is also being able to alter how people see you. And then the most important part inside of this whole thing is also being able to alter the perception that you have for yourself. So you'll say there are 4 kind of perceptions you're transforming, or I would say 4 aspects of reality that you're transforming. Your reality about people, your reality about situations and challenges, your reality about yourself, and people's reality about you. And you want to see how all of them affects your businesses, right? So that's the first phase that you transform. And the second phase that we begin to touch in is connecting to your higher self, connecting to your real self. Because if you want your business to grow, and it's also true for your life, but if you want your business to grow to its full potential, it would need that you connect with your highest self. Okay, in the workshop we call it real self, and you can also call it the highest self. And there is one blind spot that we talk about a lot in the workshop. It's called the blind spot of leadership. You can also call it the blind spot of entrepreneurship. And it says the success of the intervention depends on the interior condition of the intervener. Okay, let me just take you through a slide, okay, the fastest. So I'll just repeat as the slide comes in. The success of the intervention depends on the interior condition of the intervener. Which means what? The success of my projects, my initiatives depends on my interior condition. And the same is true for you. The success of your businesses, your projects, your whatever initiatives you're working on, it depends on your interior condition. What is this interior condition that we're talking about? Okay. You can say interior condition has 3 phases. What's your intention, or the quality of your intention, the quality of attention, and third is presence. So 3 elements or 3 dimensions here. First is intention. What is your intention? Is it an ego intention or is it an eco intention? So that's one place that you want to look at, right? And the second place you want to look at is, where is your attention? Many companies, many individuals have great intentions, really inspiring intentions. But the question is, where is your attention? Is your attention on your intention, or are you distracted? There are only two options. Either your attention is on your intention, or you're distracted. Wherever else is your attention, I would say you're distracted, right? And many times it is to the survival, to making things work, making the two ends meet, or dealing with problems, or dealing with emergencies. But we keep getting distracted from our intention. And Cecilia, I would say the same thing for you and all of us, right? Many times we keep getting distracted from our intention. And the last thing is presence. Presence is a combination of two words, being present and sensing. How present you are in this moment, and are you sensing the future that's emerging? So I'd like to end this workshop with this question or this statement for you. The success of the intervention depends on the interior condition of the intervener. Your quality of intention, your quality of attention, and your quality of presence. Okay, we would love to interact with you one-on-one, and also we love to see you in the workshop. But the time is kind of up for us right now in this setup. So really, thank you very much for being here and giving this time. And we do hope that this was worth your while. Right? Like Peter said, you attended so many workshops. I hope this was worth your while here, right? Everybody, thank you very much. And also thanks Joanne and Wang and Aljor for inviting everybody. Thank you. And live a eco leadership life. Okay, make a difference on the planet.
Good afternoon and good evening, everybody.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate
Meet up
your
with
time.
you separately. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, Aljor. Bye, Manoj.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, Vinay.